So after finishing my bachelor's at NC State, I actually found an AmeriCorps position at a local food bank. It's a nonprofit called Interfaith Food Shuttle, and I worked there as an AmeriCorps for a year and then went on to their community health staff as permanent full-time employee after my AmeriCorps term. And then after that, that's where I met a great connection, a dietitian that I actually was referred to the job that I currently have. So I currently work for the Department of Public Health with the government on their nutrition services branch. So the team that I work for is specifically the nutrition training and policy team, and we work closely as a state agency with the USDA regulations for specific special child nutrition programs in the state. And so I would say one of the things that got me to that position was making good connections at my first job in my AmeriCorps term, and then moving into the government sector after the nonprofit work that I did. And one of the things that I specifically get to work on in my job is the Child and Adult Food Care Program. So the Child and Adult Food Care Program is kind of similar to National School Lunch, but it actually provides food and nutritious meals to children and adults and infants in any daycare homes or adult care centers across the state. So my job on my team is to be able to help provide those children with appropriate nutritional content in their food and their meal patterns, and making sure that their menus are meeting all of the USDA requirements that are provided. It's been really neat, and I love working for the government. I didn't ever see myself going there after graduating, but I'm really glad that I found the position, and I actually really enjoy working in that environment. So the training I received was really hands-on. Day one, jumping into the government job, went straight to a training with agency representatives across the state. Everyone was coming together to learn about the program. So these are people that are on the program or interested in the program, coming to learn how to design a healthy menu. And so that was my initial training. I also watched a lot of state government webinars to help acclimate me to that kind of specific work on a specific program. All the work that I did at the nonprofit really trained my eye for different creative meals and snacks that can be used to help implement these menus in a healthier way and give them more variety. And then also, obviously, my nutrition training and background in school really helped to make sure I had, all the food groups right, and making sure that different meal components and different food groups are being adequately met with different items on the menus. So it's really been a comprehensive training method in terms of the stuff that I already brought to the table, and then things that I learned on the job. And I will say that there are so many different intangibles that you learn at any job, learning how to operate Excel spreadsheets and being able to use data collection and different things that aren't necessarily thought of as nutrition based, but just skill based, that you will learn on a job when you graduate college or even in college. But being able to actually take those things and apply them to any position has been really helpful to make sure that we're doing our work in the most efficient way possible and designing useful, effective tools for our participants to use. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is help institutions review their menus and make healthier choices and substitutions, as well as working with the local food movement in areas that are rural, helping institutions connect with local farmers to provide locally and seasonal food for their menus, and then also providing variety, as well as making sure children aren't having heavy menus with a lot of grain-based desserts and sugary items on their menus. So that's what I get to do on a day-to-day basis. So I would say that my work hours are not necessarily super flexible. Being a government job, we're typically there 8 to 5 with a little bit of wiggle room depending on what we're doing that day. If we're off-site at a training in a different county, that would be a little different, but normally the day-to-day looks like a lot of email communication, a lot of computer-based work, a lot of training, developing training materials for our participants, a lot of reviewing different menus from across the state, trying to give technical assistance and feedback on how they can improve. So we're looking at paper menus as well as electronic menus, providing feedback, and then also tracking everything we do in Excel spreadsheets. So it is heavily computer-based, but also a lot of collaborative teamwork with the dietitians on our team, as well as the other team members in our nutrition services branch. So I may have meetings in the morning and then in the afternoon working on menus and reviewing them and updating our spreadsheets. So there is a lot of face-to-face as well as computer and kind of behind-the-scenes work. From time to time we also lead interactive trainings on site across the state, so there's a little bit of travel included, going to different counties, making sure that we are going to where our population is instead of expecting them to come to Wake County to receive training materials. So we're trying to make that more accessible to them. So that's kind of the day-to-day. The biggest way we use nutrition, I use nutrition day-to-day, is with the USDA My Plate food groups, learning how to group foods according to their guidelines, and being able to know the difference in botanical classification of fruits and vegetables versus the way they're used in a culinary setting, and knowing how to guide individuals and the chefs that we work with to plan these meals to specific food components that meet different requirements nutritionally, and also meeting them for the program requirements. So one of our biggest things specifically that is a challenge for a lot of our participants is the definition of whole grain rich foods, and learning how to differentiate an enriched grain versus a whole grain, and what's a fortified grain. And so knowing all of those specific details from nutrition training in school really prepared me well to be able to effectively implement and teach others in the job that I do. I think one thing I learned about myself after graduation was that I wish I had probably implemented and used the connections I had at school to network a little bit more effectively and use the resources that I had. Probably I would have to say I didn't realize the wealth of resources that I had here and utilize it to the fullest extent that I could have. And so that's something I learned about myself. I also learned about myself that took that and started networking more heavily in my job, and creating nutrition-related contacts to be able to kind of open myself up to other nutrition-related jobs in the career, and trying to figure out where I wanted to go, if I wanted to be community-based, if I wanted to be more on the policy side where I am now. But that was one thing that really stuck out as being very important, and it can be super valuable to make those connections and use your resources while you're in school and afterwards. This doesn't necessarily pertain 100% to my current role with the government, but one of the biggest accomplishments that I feel like I've had is being able to mentor other nutrition students while at my past job at Interfaith Food Shuttle in the food bank role that I had in their community health team. I was able to see so many different students with different career focused goals come through the door, and be able to help them find some sort of career path related focus within the community health work that we did, be able to help them figure out what they wanted, whether it was for them or not, and be able to kind of establish those relationships and help mentor and push them to wherever they wanted to be. That was probably one of the biggest things, being able to manage a large intern team and being able to help in that way. Because I remember being a student after graduating and not having any idea of where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, and kind of just needing someone to be like, here's a little step you can take. This is something you can do to try to figure out where you want to be, and figure out where you want to go. Just start getting your feet wet and doing something in the nutrition related world. That was something that was big for me. If I'd done anything differently, it would have been to take any kind of do a little bit of nutrition work while I was still in school. My primary income source when I was in school was nannying, and so I think I probably would have tried to find some sort of internship, whether it was unpaid or not, in the nutrition field to start gaining contacts and applying myself in that way. Another thing I probably would have done would be to immediately have a job lined up right after graduation, even if it's not the perfect job you want. Something to start building skills in the workforce and start transitioning from being a student to being a working professional. My advice for current nutrition students would kind of go off of what my previous answer, but I think the biggest thing that I would say is to make connections with your professors and any connections you can in the area you are in terms of working professionals in nutrition. Make those contacts and start getting your feet wet in the nutrition related world, whether it's a full-time job, internship, unpaid, volunteering. Find local nutrition movements in your area and get connected in some way. And then also, secondly, I would not wait around for the perfect job to fall in your lap. I'd go ahead and take a job and start learning in the workforce. Any skills that you will gain in any job are going to be applicable to where you want to be. So I would go ahead and not waste any time sitting around and waiting for the perfect thing to fall in your lap.